And welcome, Hoosier Nation, to our 42nd episode of the Hoosier Sound, where our show has one main goal: to give you our perspective of IU sports from the point of view as a student or young adult. In addition, we will also give our view on hot takes from around the world of sports. We are recording this edition on Tuesday evening, June 26th, where I am your host, Noah Freeman, and I am with my usual co-host, Matthew Lukens.
What's up, guys?
Normally, we'll be going live every Tuesday evening at 8:30 p.m., but if you miss us live, you can subscribe to our various networks so you can listen on our own time. Check out our Twitter and Facebook at The Hoosier Sound and subscribe. All of the information is in our website, thehoosiersound.com. All right, Hoosier Nation, it is time for some sports talk. But first, Matt, what is your memorable monologue for this week in IU sports? I'm going to have a tongue twister every week with some of these.
Oh, I know. All the M's. No, I like that new M adjective. I think it's good.
Memorable, yeah.
Memorable. So this week in IU sports, more notably online in IU sports this week, we had a bunch of videos from our social media department on whether it was Zach McRoberts or Devontae Green showing some of the basketball players working out in practice, and then flipping over to like some videos of them during the game and showing just how stuff when you work on in practice gets translate into the game, and stuff you do in the game translate into practice. And I think that's really awesome. But also on the like total other end of the spectrum, nothing technological related at all. We had the Archie Miller basketball camps this weekend, which meant that the team camps were also this weekend. So teams from all over the country, not just Indiana. I mean, teams from Ohio and Kentucky, and I think there was another team from Illinois came to work with Archie Miller and spent an afternoon playing against each other and working on their game for that upcoming high school season for next year. And I thought that was really cool. Some of those people, some of the recruits in there included the likes of Trace Jackson Davis and Keon Brooks. So that was really awesome to see them on campus and then also get some work with Archie Miller, because as you know, Trace Jackson Davis was on the U.S. team, and now he's being recruited by the likes of Wake Forest, who Danny Manning was an assistant coach, and he's already worked with him in practice. So getting that kind of practice feel from Archie Miller is going to be really good in that recruitment as well.
Yeah, I like it, especially all the social media stuff. Now is kind of the time they've really amped up the social media things. It's really great. You've probably seen at least a couple of them, but even if you're someone. If you're someone that I know, like me, sometimes I'm hesitant to follow even accounts that I like just because they post and they tweet literally like every hour or something like that. Indiana basketball, at least this summer, is something to pass the time with. They've got a lot of great stuff and they've amped it up a lot. But let's get into the bulk of the show, the main two topics that we're going to talk about. So, and you hear a little spiel that we talk about. Welcome to the Hoosier Nation, and we give what our podcast is a little bit about. You always hear this line. In addition, we'll also give our view on hot takes from around the world of sports. Most of the time, because this is the Hoosier Sound, it's an IU-centered podcast. We do give mostly Hoosier-related topics and stuff, but every once in a while, we do like to stray beyond at least some of the Bloomington, Indiana area. And today's one of those days. So it's not going to be exclusively just putting IU out, and we're not going to not talk about IU the entire time. But today we're going to talk about the NBA draft and the World Cup. We're going to tie in some of the NBA draft with the Hoosiers in a second. So, but don't turn it off yet. There's a lot of great stuff, especially if you're just a general sports fan. It's good to know a lot about this stuff. And the World Cup is such a huge spectacle. It's on only once every 4 years. It's a great thing in the summer, especially when sports are slow in general, and the only thing going on is baseball, which is great. But it's nice to have more than one sport going on.
You're being nice, no. But
yes, yeah. I am being nice. All right, let's dive into the NBA draft. And Matt, what are your just overall thoughts of the 2018 NBA draft, even without any Hoosiers names being called?
Well, I thought it was kind of disappointing we didn't have any IU players. I mean, we expected it, but still slightly disappointing. I always, every year, I like seeing our guys get drafted and get to walk across the stage and shake the commissioner or maybe the vice commissioner's hand. But it didn't happen this year. I think my big takeaways, though, I thought the big trade of the night, which was Trae Young for Luka Doncic, who I'm very high on Luka Doncic. I really like him as a basketball player. I think
as is a lot of people.
Yeah, I think he's gonna kill it, honestly. And I don't think people understand how good the Spanish league is and how well he was playing in it at his age. Like, no one's ever done that.
I'm going to interrupt Matt's brief moment. If you don't know who Luka Doncic is, he 18, I think. Is he 18 or 19?
Yes, turned 19.
Yeah, but he's been playing for Slovenia, and he has been playing basically since he's 15. So he's been playing real professional basketball for 3 or 4 years already now. So that's why he's already so experienced, and he's so young. So he's already like one of these one and done freshmen, except he's already been playing, and he's been playing at a really high level. So just a little thing in there that's why a lot of people are high on him. Continue, Matt.
Yeah, he's been playing for Real Madrid in Spain. You might know that name because Real Madrid is, in fact, one of the, if not the largest soccer team in the world. And he's been killing it over there. And then Trae Young got traded for him. So Luka Doncic was taken by Atlanta at 3, and then the Mavericks, who were at pick 5, who had or have, depending on when you're listening to this, Yogi on their team, tying into IU, traded for Luka because they picked Trae Young and then gave Trae Young to Atlanta. So now Luka gets a year under Dirk Nowitzki to learn from possibly the greatest, actually not possibly, definitely the greatest international player ever to play in the NBA, which is going to be great for him. And then Trae Young gets to do his stuff in Atlanta with a team that, is probably going to lose 60 games next year, but at least he gets to have fun while doing it. So I think it works out for the both of them.
Mm-hmm. That was along those same topics. That was exactly what I was going to mention, just with the NBA draft and being a Hoosier fan. Obviously, you think about the Mavericks drafting a point guard, and you're like, wait, what about Yogi? So
yeah.
If you were following the draft at all, or at least some of the tweets that we were putting out, Dallas has drafted 3 point guards in their last 3 picks, because their last pick they traded away, but that was still a point guard anyway. They've drafted 3 point guards, and when you draft point guards compared to Yogi, who was undrafted, even as well as he was doing in some of those games, you start to think, is Yogi going to stay on the Mavericks? And even as of today, as of 6:02, Adrian Wojnarowski, which is the Adam Scheffner of the NBA, basically the guy that has basically all of the inside information, a guy you can trust, more or less, that the Dallas has tendered his Yogi's qualifying offer. So on July 1st, Yogi Ferrell will become a restricted free agent. Now restricted, so the Mavs can still sign him again, but with drafting 3 point guards, at least in this draft and the last draft, and having Luka Doncic easily being now the starting point guard, even with drafting Dennis Smith last year so highly, there's a stronger possibility that Yogi might be going somewhere else. So when everyone's on LeBron watch this summer, Hoosier fans are probably going to be on Yogi watch for this summer.
Well, people won't be on LeBron watch for very long. I saw a report today that we should know by July 4th, and free agency starts on July 1st.
And by this Friday, he's also got to say if he's going to opt in for his offer or not. So that also knocks out a few teams if he opts in or opts out, basically.
He's going to opt out because obviously if he opts in, he can't leave Cleveland unless they trade him, but that's not going to be possible. But he's going to opt out because he's going to want more money. It's just how it works, because the salary cap is increased next year, which means he gets more money.
Anyway, let's not get too far off with the
Yeah,
NBA because
right.
I feel like today's a podcast. Today's a podcast that there are a bunch of different routes that we could go off on tangents. But all right, Matt, let's dive into the NBA draft just a little bit. Were there any standout players you think went higher than normal, lower than normal? Some teams that either jumped up, slid back down. What kind of moves and players were you seeing throughout this NBA draft?
Well, I think the first and most obvious one is Michael Porter Jr., who was making a lot of noise. If you don't remember who Michael Porter Jr. is, he's number one recruit or number two recruit, depending on where you look. Last year, he got injured. He had some back injuries at Mizzou. He played about 2.5 games.
Yeah, technically 6, but he didn't. He played for like 20 minutes total.
Yeah, so he basically played a total of 2.5 games. And then had some more injury issues before the draft. So he went from 1 or 2 prospect, like first year number 1 pick over Marvin Bagley and Ayton, to 14th to the Nuggets. I think that's the biggest slide I think I've. No, that's a lie because was it 2 years ago? Sky Labissiere was like by far the number 1 recruit, and then he ended up going in the 20s. So that's the biggest slide I've seen from a number 1 recruit. But I think second is Michael Porter Jr. Another thing is Mikal Bridges went to Villanova, gets drafted by the Sixers. Everybody thinks it's this wonderful story. And then 3 picks later, he gets traded to the Suns for what's his name from Texas Tech and the first round pick. And then everybody in Philly, all my family who are on Facebook, were all texting me like, "What is going on? Why would they do that?" And it was like, and his mom works for the Sixers too. That's the thing too. Mrs. Bridges works for the Sixers, and they traded her son. But it makes sense. The guy from Texas Tech is really good, and they got another future first round pick who's from Miami, who's my team. And I'm telling you, once Goran Dragic and Whiteside leave, we're gonna be trash for like 3 years. And I think it's the 2021 pick, so that's a really good first round pick to pick up. Yeah, it was a good move by the Sixers. It's just not good PR by them because everybody's like, trust the process. He was perfect. He like fit right in. He was a small forward that could shoot the 3 and play defense, and he's traded 3 picks later.
Zaire Smith was your Texas Tech guy.
Thank you.
But before we dive into the Hoosier part, the other thing I wanted to mention was obviously not all IU fans are Pacers fans, but I did love the Aaron Holiday pick for the Pacers. I think that was a pretty big steal for them. It was a big steal for them at 23. They're going to have basically more or less, I guess, because Lance is now kind of on the ropes from coming back or not. But they've got more or less the same team for next year. They've got a great incoming point guard. And if you hear the last name Holiday, wait a second, that sounds familiar. It's because, yes, he does have brothers playing in the NBA. Most notably, Drew Holiday is one of the bigger names that you might recognize. So there are brothers. It stays in the family. That was a steal. Pacers did well. But let's put some Hoosiers. Let's put a Hoosier twist into it because, of course, this was a rough draft in terms of not having any IU players there. So Matt and I were wondering, what do we want draft day to be like as an IU fan? Do we want to have 4 picks each year, basically kind of like Duke and Kentucky, where we got 4 players going in the first and the second round, or do we want maybe 2 players every year? Do we want like maybe 4 or 5 every couple of years? How many of these picks do we want in the lottery? I think these are a lot of big questions because a lot of these show what kind of college team you have. Because when you look at, oh man, you just want to go to Duke and Kentucky because they're all going to get these top quality picks and stuff. And as a player, that is very appealing because they are putting kids into the NBA, and that's what you want to do as a college athlete. But as a team, are we sure if we want 4 or 5 picks every single year? What does that mean? That's probably going to mean that we're more of a one and done team. And I think a lot of Hoosier fans at least have tried to stray away from wanting to be that one and done team. So Matt, what are your thoughts on what you want, at least on average, what you think NBA draft day should be?
I think it's 2 to 3 picks, honestly, every year. Something like, was it Yogi's draft? We had Yogi and Thomas go, and Yogi was, yeah, oh, yeah, OG and Thomas go. Yes, there we go. Sorry, my bad. OG and Thomas go. That's the perfect draft right there. You have one first round pick, one second round pick, or one high first round pick, like a mid to low first round, like mid to low to maybe even early second round for like draft pick, and then maybe a low second round draft pick. So 2 to 3 guys every year. So that way, when we have 13 scholarships, you have 3 guys leaving. So you have 3 guys coming in every single year with a give or take of maybe 1 year we have 4 guys leave, but it should be 3-person classes every year. That's my take. Is even out the scholarships. Make sure that we always have people who are coming up who can fill in the roles. Like, this is what Villanova does. That's the model you need for college basketball, which is, if you're running a college basketball team, you need to have guys at every position at, maybe 2 years apart. So when you have a senior, you have a sophomore. When you have a freshman, you have a junior, and so far and so forth.
Yeah, and I think sprinkling in those lottery picks, even like top 5 lottery picks or something like that, is also good every once in a while too, because then it shows that you are getting a Romeo Langford every once in a while. But I agree with Matt. 1 to 2, 3, depending on the year. Not too many first rounds, because when you think about it, that might be a lot of talent going out of the current IU team. That might be just a little too much, and your team might be fluctuating a lot, because it is nice to see a player grow, and it's nice to see kind of like you said, a lot of those Villanova players, you had a couple people that were newer, but then you got some of those seniors that you got to see grow, and that's what hopefully what we'll see Juwan next year. So I think at least next year with Romeo and Juwan, most likely in the NBA draft, I think that'll probably be a more closer image of what we might like to see.
Oh, definitely. I hate to throw Purdue into this conversation, but I'm going to throw Purdue into this conversation, because you look at Haas got drafted, right? And you have Edwards, and I think of the 4 of their 5 starters,
yeah, have Swanigan,
yeah. But just this year, 4 of their 5 starters were seniors, which is, you think, is awesome, and that's great. And look, they got an old team that, it's played together forever, and that's fine. But what happens when all 4 of them leave, and then next year is a giant drop off? So if maybe 2 of them were seniors and then 2 were sophomores and 1 was a junior, then you have some players that can step up in their juniors and senior year that can replace those guys that have left. So it's like great on Purdue for getting those guys drafted and getting to go to the NBA, but also like, you're going to suck next year. So
at least we hope so. And I'm going to throw the stats out just because I want to get into the World Cup, because I know Matt is very, very excited, to say the least, to talk about the World Cup. I have to slow him down every week, because we ask, hey, what topics do you want to talk about? And he's like, let's talk about the World Cup. And I'm like, Matt, we can't talk about it every week. So needless to say, he's very excited about it. But in the Big Ten too, you kind of see you're not really sure about how the Big Ten is doing in the draft. Well, this year we had 8 Big Ten players drafted, and when you think originally, I thought about this and I'm like, wow, we only had 8 players being drafted in the Big Ten, but I looked past the past couple of years, and that's actually a fair amount of Big Ten players. It's not, and it's even spread across a few teams, which is, I think, what the Big Ten needs to start trending upward for, because they had last year in 2017, we only had 4 players drafted. 2 of them were from IU. I'm going to put in there, obviously, and then 6 of them were drafted in 2016. But this year we even had 2 players from MSU, 2 from Maryland, 1 from Michigan, 1 from Ohio State, Penn State, and Purdue. Throw in IU on a normal year, basically. Yeah. So, and that's doing pretty good. So I think the Big Ten is on the up and up, but I wanted to put that in there. If you look and, hey, maybe the Big Ten's not drafting as much, but you got to think of other things like all the other conferences, the best of the best in some of the other players. You got the European League, but we're not going to dive too much into that, because like I just prefaced, Matt, and we have a special guest. a friend from Indiana University. He's going to be a senior at IU. He is a soccer guru, to say the least. Will Lusk is on our show to talk about the World Cup. How are you doing today, Will?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
So, so we're just going to, at least I'm going to bow out just a little bit because I know some World Cup stuff, but this is really in their neck of the woods. But I want to get your opening thoughts from both of you on the World Cup thus far. And Will, as our special guest, why don't you start us off with your opening thoughts, just as in for the World Cup as a whole?
As a whole, I think it's been great. We had our first 0-0 today. Which is super exciting. I think VAR has
my point. You stole my point. I was going to say that.
It's the third round of group games. It's great. People are scoring. VAR has gone without conflict. I mean, there's conflict, of course, but it's not like this massive controversy that everybody expected it to be. We've got a bunch of exciting matchups in the round of 16 already, and some more to come. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, to a point. Like I said, you stole my points. I was gonna say today was the first day.
Literally,
I was so upset today that there was a 0-0 draw because I was gonna be like, this is like the first World Cup where there's never been a 0-0 draw in like the first round, and then today France goes out and lays an egg,
as they've been known to do. They haven't looked good all World Cup, so
No, they've looked awful, but that's beside the point. And I think I'll talk about how the major teams and that were thought to be so good in this World Cup haven't been doing very well, which makes it a great World Cup. So the likes of Argentina, Germany, Spain, Portugal, you name it, they've been struggling against teams like Iran, Morocco, Saudi Arabia gave trouble to Uruguay. Like these teams have been that are normally fantastic international squads who just run over opponents have been struggling this World Cup, and there's been plenty of goals too to go around, which means the games have been also exciting. It hasn't been 0-0 the whole time, so I think it's great.
As a comparison, basically this World Cup so far is kind of like this past season in the NCAA, where everyone was losing left and right, basically. No matter how Duke or Kentucky Kansas kind of team you were, everyone has been losing left and right, basically, which is I mean, more or less, but that's kind of what you want to see with the competition.
And that sort of thing primes us for a 16-1 upset.
Well, that's what I was about to say. We haven't had our UMBC yet. So
not yet. The round of 16 hasn't started, but it's coming.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So before I get into the next question, basically, if you're not into the World Cup as much, they just have a group stage where there's 8 groups of 4 teams in there. Each team plays each other once. You get 3 points if you win, 1 point each if you tie, and then obviously nothing if you lose, and the top 2 teams advance. Just as simple as it can be. And then you go into the round of 16. So it's basically Sweet 16 knockout stage, kind of one and done kind of stuff. So we'll go with Matt this time. What, and then we'll go to Will. So what has intrigued both of you in this group stage so far? So just the group stage, and then we'll get into the knockout later.
Well, I'll elaborate on my point that I said earlier, which is the little teams are giving the big teams a lot of trouble. So we look at, Group G is England, Belgium, Panama, Tunisia. That has been by far the most blown out group. And by blown out, I mean England and Belgium have +6 goal difference, and they play each other in a couple days to see who wins the group. That's been about the worst group. But other than that, you look at Group H, which is Japan, Senegal, Colombia, Poland. I think everybody except for Poland, and so Japan, Senegal, and Colombia, can advance from that group coming up this next week. So we have no idea who's going to come out of that group. Group F is the Mexico group, and Germany and Sweden and Mexico are all still fighting to see who comes out of that group, and that's tomorrow, so that should be really exciting. Also tomorrow is Group E, Brazil, Switzerland, and Serbia all have a chance to make it out of the group. Yes, if things fall right, Brazil could be out of the World Cup. As you saw today, Argentina qualified, but even they had trouble against Iceland and Nigeria. So this tournament, as I've said, teams that are supposedly to be the best in the world have some of the best players. Some of the most expensive clubs have these players on their team, are struggling to teams like Iceland, who have about 340,000 people, and their goalkeeper's a dentist.
Oh man, you had to bring up Iceland.
The coach is a dentist. The goalkeeper's a filmmaker.
Well, goalkeeper's a filmmaker. Their coach is a dentist. I'm sorry, but
you're good.
Yeah, you know.
Oh man, Iceland. That was heartbreaker.
Look,
all right,
Iceland's great, but the one thing Iceland can do is defend as a group, which is great until you can't score a goal.
Being able to play as a team is important. I mean, look at Argentina; they're struggling. They have some of the best players in the world, including Lionel Messi, Sergio Aguero, and they can't work together. They don't mesh, and
they don't have a coach. They have a shell of a coach.
Right. The one thing Iceland does correctly is they have the best chant in the history of the World Cup. But all right, Will, what has intrigued you so far with the group stage?
Yeah. So I really like how I guess so far we have only had 2 teams that have won all 3 matches, which kind of shows like that the depth of quality in the tournament. Only Uruguay and Croatia have won all 3, and those were some really exciting matches. Uruguay with their 89th minute winner in their opener against Portugal, Croatia with their 3-0 win against Argentina. But there's depth in every group, and as Matt alluded to, you don't know who's going to qualify yet, and there's still excitement coming on the final day.
Pure drama at its finest. That's what this is.
Yeah. The Spain and the Group B stuff. Oh man, when there were 2 goals in, if only Iran had knocked out Portugal.
If Iran had knocked out Portugal, I would have lost my damn mind. I would have.
They should have. That's what makes it so.
I don't know. Did I text you, Noah, about that? Because I was texting Ryan and a couple of my friends in the marching band. I was texting them and I was like, I think Iran can do this today. And they're like, no, they can't. I'm like, watch. And they were this close. The guy had the one half chance and he put it into the side netting. I was like, no, it was
a half chance, but he could have scored it. He had an open net.
Yeah, he could
have had to get it up and your foot around it.
Yeah, or he could have cut it back and there was a guy wide open. No. Oh. That reminds me of the USA-Belgium game from 4 years ago where Chris Wondolowski skied a wide open chance in front of goal in the 94th minute. I was like, no, how do you even I'm going on a tangent, but I've been meaning for 4 years to get this out of my body. If you are 3 feet from a goal and you are a striker, a professional soccer player.
If you get paid to do something, you should probably be able to kick a ball into a net 3 feet in front of you.
Over a net from 3 feet. How do it's like what 9 feet tall? How do you kick a ball over the net?
All right. This is why I am here, because these are very passionate people about soccer and the World Cup, as you can tell, which is why we brought them on to talk about the World Cup. But Will, give me a disappointment and a surprise thus far in the entire tournament. A disappointment and a surprise.
A disappointment, Egypt. I came in looking for them to be a solid competition, at least for Uruguay and Russia, and I thought they had a good shot at getting out of their group, with Russia not looking so good over the past few years. Oops. But the Champions League final injury to Mohamed Salah certainly did not help, and I think they played great in their opening match against Uruguay, and then the 89th minute concession did not help.
No, it did not help.
And but I almost think that the return of Mohamed Salah hurt them, in that they thought he's here, he'll save us, and they all kind of backed off as a result, because they looked so good against Uruguay.
It made them one-dimensional. It made them one-dimensional the same way that Argentina looked through the first 2 games. They just passed the ball to Messi and were like, hey, can you dribble through 6 players for us? Thank you. And everybody else just kind of walked around the field, and he's like, I can't do that. You have to take the defenders away from me. So I think that was the same thing with Mohamed Salah. And then I don't think he was happy either, because wasn't there some sort of political thing going on?
Yeah, there were rumors he was going to quit and not play in their 3rd match. But he did.
All right. What's your biggest surprise?
A surprise? I think the obvious one is Mexico, but I'm going to go for Morocco and Iran, who performed admirably against Spain and Portugal.
Yes.
Ultimately to fail, but they won the hearts and minds of many. To even dream about being able to knock Portugal out of the cup in the group stage.
Like, yeah, they were. I mean, you could argue that Ronaldo deserved a red card.
I would argue that.
And then Portugal's down to 10 men defending. They have nobody on attack, and it's with 5 minutes left. Right,
you can't know how it would have turned out. They might not have scored, but
exactly.
But
it helps.
It does. It definitely does. Yeah.
Yeah. So Iran, I agree with that. Iran and Morocco were definitely surprises for sure. But yeah, I agree.
All right, Matt. Yeah. So what's your surprise and disappointment? I guess that was your surprise. So give us a disappointment.
All right. I'm gonna do my disappointments first because I have them on my head. I'm gonna slather some teams here. So here we go. Poland. What were you doing? Honestly, you're out of the world. You're out of the World Cup already through 2 games. You have probably the 3rd best striker in the world, Robert Lewandowski. You have a very decent midfield, very decent goalkeeper, and you're not even playing your best center back, Kamil Glick, through the first 2 games. I don't know what you're doing, Poland. You deserve to get out of the tournament. Germany looks like they've either been tortured or cursed by some witch or something. I don't know, because they don't look like Germany.
They don't look like Germany, and that 95th minute winner, I would argue that there should not have been 5 minutes of added time.
Yeah, there should have been 5 minutes of added time. And that Swedish guy, I know he's been getting some death threats and stuff, so I feel bad. But honestly, what are you doing? Do not slide in. Don't go in for that tackle. That was not it. The
guy in the wall, Sebastian Larsson. I think he stopped running to block the shot. Tony Cruz shot early. He lost the angle when they moved the ball. And
yes, but anyways, Germany did not deserve that 3 points. They deserved 1 point, and then they would have been on pins and needles hoping Mexico beat Sweden. But nope, Germany's been super disappointing. Sweden's actually been a surprise. I thought Sweden deserved to win that game.
This is Sweden without Zlatan.
Yeah, Sweden without Zlatan, and they've been playing as a team.
Yeah,
but again,
that's what getting rid of Zlatan does.
They don't have Zlatan, so I'm sorry to slather your team, Noah, but Iceland has been a disappointment. Other than being able to score 1 goal against an Argentina team that couldn't defend in the first place, they scored 0. Oh no, they scored 1.
No, they scored a goal today.
They scored a goal, but then they still lost it anyway.
Minute or 70. Yeah,
they scored 2 goals in 3 games, and their whole thing is about defense. But they let in They let in 4 or 5 goals in 3 games, so they got outscored, and they lost 2 games, and they were just kind of.
They were disappointed, but I think we are forgetting how much they overachieved in. Euros. Now that they've done that, everybody expects them to be great, and it's still, they can only do so much with what they have.
I feel like if they got out of their defensive shell 1 or 2 times and got on a counterattack, they might have been better off. But they disappointed me because I thought more of them. I think another team.
I thought they were going to qualify. I thought they were going to qualify ahead of Argentina.
Until Argentina had that literally last second goal almost to put them up to get into there. But now that we got 10 out of the 16 teams that are going on to the knockout stages, the picture is more or less solidified, at least for who's going to the knockout. Obviously, there's still a couple teams, a couple groups that have a few big question marks. But we'll start with Will again. What are some of your predictions just for the knockout stage and further? We'll don't go up until who you think is going to win. We'll save that for the end from both of you.
Okay, so back at the start of the tournament when I filled out my bracket, I had Croatia going to the semifinals, and seeing how they've done, I'm going to stand by that. They've looked fantastic. They've got experience, they've got talent, they've got depth. They had 3 people playing the Champions League final this past season.
Yep.
They can make a run. I'm really excited for just the entire, assuming the rest of the group stage goes as expected, which it very well could not. The entire half of the bracket, with the first team from A and the second team from B, is going to be amazing, because if those go as expected, we're going to have Uruguay, Portugal, France, Argentina, Brazil, Germany, Belgium, and Colombia on the same side of the bracket. So it's going to be massive, massive matches that you can't really predict all the way up until the final.
Half of those are semifinal. Like, you could see them as semifinal. You could see them
all in the semifinals.
Oh yeah, that's insane.
Super exciting.
You can't get better than that. But then also flip side, the other side of the bracket makes it so much fun, because you're gonna have some people who should not have a chance at being in the World Cup final, having absolute golden chance to make it to the final, and half of the World Cup is just making it to the final. Of course, you're going to be devastated if you lose in the World Cup final, but for some nations, like, it's never going to be realistic that they're going to beat the best team in the world. But to play against them in the biggest game of the world is such an accomplishment.
Right.
So, Matt, what are your predictions then going forward up until your prediction of who's going to win the entire thing?
All right. So my semifinal, if everything goes as planned, we'll have, I think, 4 of these 6 teams in it. Not 6 teams. You can't have 6-team semifinal. 4 of these 6 teams. So it'll have Brazil. It'll have Croatia. It'll have, I want to say Germany will probably be fine. Spain will probably be fine. France and Colombia. Those are my 6 teams that I think that have a shot at making the semifinals. Some of those are on the same side of the bracket.
Yeah, you are aware that Brazil and Germany are, like, on pace to play each other in the round.
Right. But the winner of that game is going to make the semifinal. So, but yes. So, and then from there, from the semifinal, it's honestly all matchups. But I can't tell you who it's going to be yet until I know who the round of 16 is, because for all I know, we could have, we could have Japan qualify, and then we could have Colombia be out, and so then, there goes my prediction, and then I don't know, Germany loses to South Korea, and Sweden ties Mexico, and then Germany's out. So we don't know yet, but that's why you guys have to watch these next couple days, because pure drama.
I liked both of your comments with Croatia, because I think a lot of people have been talking about them. Usually you don't hear about them as a team even advancing, and then just even having a chance to get closer to the quarter and then the finals. But I agree. I think they are somewhat of a dark horse, and that you could see a team like, Croatia getting farther than you might think. All right. But lastly, let's hear we'll go with Matt first, and then we'll leave our guest with the final pick. But when it's all said and done, I know the group stage isn't even finished yet. But who do you think will be winning the World Cup in 2.5 weeks?
On the 15th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I forgot 1 or 2 teams in my semifinal prediction, but I'm gonna pretend like that didn't happen. I'm gonna go with Brazil, and it's obviously a very popular choice, but their midfield, I think, is killer. I think Augusto, who's their 3rd midfielder, is really, really underrated. I really like him as a midfielder. I think he'll get a big move to a big club, because I think he plays in China, or he plays in Brazil, I'm pretty sure, but he deserves a big move. Neymar I think he'll learn how to play in the team and not play to get fouled, because
he's also getting fouled a lot. You know,
yeah,
he's playing to get fouled, but he's also getting kicked.
Yeah, he's definitely getting like purposefully fouled just because he's so good.
Yeah,
but like at the same time, half the time he's like, all right, I have a break. It's 1 me on 6 defenders. Let me just run into them and hope I get fouled. And it's like, wait for, Gabriel Jesus, your striker, and Coutinho, and whoever was Douglas Costa in the last game, or Willian, or somebody else on the other wing to help you in attack, so maybe you can pull defenders away. But he's like, nah, I'm going to take on 6 defenders, which, if you learn, doesn't work. Ask Messi. It doesn't work. You can't do that. But yeah, my pick is Brazil. I think they figured out their goalkeeping situation, which is half the reason why they got blown out by Germany. Right. And
they've got 2 quality keepers now.
Yeah, shaky defending and shaky goalkeeping, and those 2 things together don't work together. But they fixed their second center back issue. So Thiago Silva is a rock and has been in the team forever, and then Miranda is a killer in defense, and I think they've fixed that out. So as a whole team, I think they're the most complete team in the tournament.
All right, Will, what about you?
Coming in, I picked France, and I do not stand by that. They have not looked good.
That was a trendy pick, though. I could have totally.
They have all the talent, and there must be a way to get them all to play together. I just don't know what it is.
No, because they're all French and they're so full of themselves.
I mean, you can, yeah. I think if Croatia get past Spain and all the way to the semifinal, I think they have a good shot at making the final and possibly winning it. I think Belgium have a great chance. England, I'm trying not to judge based on their performance against Panama, because it's Panama. But I mean, you can't score 6 goals and not have that just like raise your confidence levels enough.
Right.
I mean, you saw what a massive win against Saudi Arabia did for Russia in the opener.
Those were the 2 teams that I forgot, by the way, was Belgium and England. Because I saw you like shyly smiling in the thing, and I was like, what did I forget? Who did I forget?
So England will probably screw it up, as they always do.
Yes.
But Belgium have screwed it up a number of times as well. But I think they have the talent. They are finally at the point where they have defensive solidity and all these star attackers and a midfield that can do both.
Witzel's been bossing the midfield.
Kevin De Bruyne's evolution under Pep has been massively helpful.
Yes.
I could see him going all the way.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they're one of the teams. I always forget that they exist because they're such a small little country.
Right.
But they have. So if anybody needs to know, they might have the most expensive squad at the not the Olympics, the World Cup. Why was I saying the Olympics? They have one of the most expensive World Cup squads, just because. So all their players have a transfer market value, which means basically if another team wanted to come buy them from their club team, instead of in European soccer, instead of trading, other teams go give the other team money for their player. Then that team uses money to buy more players or build a stadium if you're Arsenal, or do other things. But so
you can include players as well. You can do player swaps. You can do players plus cash for a single player.
Right. But basically, it's usually cash or player, and that's how it works. And the sum of their players is bigger than teams like Spain, who have a zillion players who you could be like, that guy's worth 90 million, that guy's worth 100 million, that guy's worth like 45 or 50 million, which is a lot of money. But Kevin De Bruyne is arguably worth 150 to 200 million. You'd argue that Eden Hazard's 200 million. Lukaku's was cheap at 90 million. Mertens is probably worth about 90 million. Thibaut Courtois 90 million. So
and then a lot of these players add up. And the strongest center back pairing in the Premier League, and Vincent Kompany, and
yep.
All right. So quick, you got 10 seconds. Give me a bold prediction. Either a team's going to make it almost all the way that you wouldn't think, or a team's going to get out almost immediately or something. Matt, go.
Colombia.
Colombia is going to what?
Colombia's going to the semifinals. They're going to upset somebody that I just said was going to win the World Cup. So, you know.
All right, Will.
Germany lose in the round of 16.
And that's big.
Or Germany gets out in the
assuming they make it to the round of 16. Yes.
Yeah.
It's true. All right. Thank you so much, Will, for joining us on this edition of the Hoosier Sound.
Thank you.
Thanks,
it's been great to talk to you about some World Cup stuff. But, folks, that about wraps it up for our 42nd show of the Hoosier Sound. Thank you all so much for joining us. If you have made it this far, stay tuned for updates on Twitter at the Hoosier Sound, Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and visit our website at thehoosiersound.com to find information regarding our podcast. As always, send us your questions as the audience, so be sure to comment, chat, or send us a message at contact@thehoosiersound.com on what question you have, and we'll get them on our next episode. Lastly, if you enjoy our show, leave us a review, tell a friend, share our links. It really helps so that we can grow this podcast. But as always, thank you for listening, Hoosier Nation, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.